what is up, guys? It is your boy, RC Apologist here. And hold up, let me move this mic in a little bit closer. Alright, hopefully it doesn't fall over. Alright, so this is RC Apologist, and welcome to Theological Discussion. Where, yes, that's what we're planning to do here. And I can't tell if we are going live or not, because the thing is, well, it's not showing up on my end, at least. Let me see if I can go to my channel and check to see if I am. Okay, it says I'm live now. Alright, there we go. So I at least managed to work that out. Alright. Can I see y'all's chats? Yes. Okay, so I can at least see y'all in the chat. So I won't be able to do much besides that. Alright. As y'all can tell from the little topic here of the video, we are going to be getting into some very interesting discussion here about something I saw recently and I thought was very shameful concerning the state of Pennsylvania and a certain state representative specifically. Before we get into that, though, there is just a little thing I want to go over before then, which is concerning some books that I got, and they will be used especially to help out with new studies and video ideas that I plan on doing. I already have like one that I should be working on right now, and this is about the flood of Noah. But as far as that goes, let me see. I'll just pull it up on my phone because that way at least it's easier because I have the receipt there. Anyways, I got 4 new books coming in the mail. I already have a 5th one that's coming in pretty soon. So that book, by the way, is called From Paradise to the Promised Land, An Introduction to the Pentateuch, the 3rd edition. And it's a good book from what I have looked into the reviews of from a T. Desmond Alexander. Now the other ones, though, that are coming in is Old Testament Ethics, a guided tour, which is one from John Goldingay, which I have his Old Testament translation on my shelf. And this one, he pretty much just narrows it down into specific topics in which Old Testaments and ethics boil down to, concerning how we can see certain grounds of ethics within the Old Testament. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and I thought I want to get that, especially it being a new book on the subject, and I haven't really looked into Old Testament ethic books, so I figured this probably might be a good introduction. The next is the Book of Exodus, a biography written by Joel Baden. I believe he's from Yale University, and he's definitely, not a conservative from what I have heard and looked into, so this would be interesting to see what he says in the Book of Exodus, a biography, because while he would affirm things like the documentary hypothesis, from what I hear, the book doesn't necessarily dispel like the whole thing about certain things surrounding this book as being pure fiction or pure myth. This next one also just came out recently on the bookstore, and that would be Confronting Old Testament Controversies by none other than our good old buddy Tremper Longman III. Also, hello, Saint Dragon. So yeah, there's Confronting Old Testament Controversies, which I've seen. The author of this book, Tremper Longman III, has tackled some interesting stuff before, and especially in the book he co-authored with, which I have on my shelf, which is the one about oh goodness gracious, I just said it, the flood. So it's another one about the flood. So yeah. And then the 4th one is from Gordon Wenham, Exploring the Old Testament, a Guide to the Pentateuch. So this is another Pentateuch, Torah, Old Testament video. Alright, so those are the 4 books, and technically 5 considering the one that's about to come in tomorrow, that I will be getting and will be utilizing a lot during my studies. And at this point, this will be really all I will need to utilize during the studies that I have. So, good thing for that, and thanks for the birthday money that was given for this occasion. I want to restart, but I'm at the same time kind of worried if I do that. Let me just try this here. Alright. Make sure we see everything. Alright. Alright, so let's continue onward with our whole thing. So those are the books, and just letting y'all know. Now, what got me wanting to do this, especially with the live stream of doing this at this point right now, was the fact that honestly, I'm not one that talks too much about politics on this channel, because to me, we're supposed to be mainly focused on the topics of religion and so forth. But that being said, there was some shots thrown at Christianity out here, so I figured this could at least have some coverage of it. But it also just struck me as, wow, that this one individual who is a politician, state representative, is going to conduct himself in the state acting like this. And we're just gonna play audio clips for now to show y'all what is going on. Because I first saw some friends retweet this, and I was like, wow, we gotta, this is just ridiculous. And there's been several news reports that pointed out this guy named Brian Sims, who is a state representative for the state of Pennsylvania, who finds himself harassing a pro-life woman peacefully praying outside of a Planned Parenthood clinic. So let's go to, first of all, let's take a look at this article here before we show the video. Pennsylvania State Representative films himself harassing a pro-life woman praying outside of Planned Parenthood. It's from the MRC TV. Pennsylvania State Representative Brian Sims published a video to social media over the weekend showing him harassing an elderly pro-life woman who was peacefully praying and advocating alone outside Planned Parenthood clinic in southeastern Pennsylvania. In the video, Sims, a Democrat representing Pennsylvania's 182nd district, tried repeatedly to shove his camera phone in the woman's face to intentionally expose her identity, while lambasting her with questions like, how many children have you clothed today? How many children have you fed today? Or have you just stood out in front of a Planned Parenthood shaming people for something that they have a constitutional right to do? Sims demanded of the clearly uncomfortable woman. He goes on to say, if you're here about the children, you can pray at home for the children. And then Sims continued. And so we're going to play the clip of what is going on, and we're going to kind of piece it together and go over the various different parts of what's happening here, because I'm trying to figure out and see what's going on. Because it looked like live action had the thing. Alright, there it is. So here's the clip, and this is mirrored from Brian Sims' own Twitter account, which from what I hear, this also went to Facebook. Now, let's take a listen to this, because there was another story that we're going to get into, but notice that this is the main thing that got everyone's attention, but apparently he does this quite often. So, I'm going to put this there and put you on a thing here. Oh, wait. make sure that actually I'm still on here for people. All right. So we're still good. We're still we're still rolling. Hopefully. All right. So Brian Sims walking outside. We're not going to play the video for this because it's on Twitter, and there is no way I think that I can show y'all that from here. So we're just going to have to go with what we can with the audio and treat this like past podcast experiences where we just played things for audio wise. But that being said, let me just mute this. I'm getting ready for the ending music, so that way we can at least be prepared to end on a note. Alright, so here we go. Brian Sims from Pennsylvania with his whole spiel. Let's see what we got.
Hi everyone, Representative Brian Sims here, and I'm once again out in...
By the way, just in case he tries anything, or if he or if someone tries to get this taken down for anything, this is protected under fair use for the criticism here. So, keep in mind.
In front of...
Oh, I just realized I can't go to other things while I do this. So this is definitely going to be an interesting thing with Twitter. All right.
Of southeastern Pennsylvania. It's not only in my district, it's the most heavily protested Planned Parenthood, I believe, in the country. And today's protester, now, she is an old white lady who's going to try to avoid showing you her face. But the same law...
So here's what's interesting. Notice what he said, old white lady. What does being white have to do with any of this? And again, it also apparently will skip and continue playing on. Okay, here's what I'm gonna have to do then. At this point, I'm just gonna have to stay on the video. So this is new for me. All right, so what does being white have to do with anything, folks? I mean, it's ridiculous. So, I don't know why he brought it up, but we'll see. Let's continue. Let's continue.
Showing you her face. But the same laws, luckily, that protect her from being out here also protect me from showing you who she is.
Okay, so while that necessarily concerning the issue of identity or recording and all that kind of stuff, here's the thing. There's also a law against harassment, which is shown from this video, and of course a couple others, that you really are breaking your own law by harassing. In fact, I even had heard from somebody on our Discord server who, by the way, not a conservative. This person is basically stating that, this would definitely qualify as harassment, and this would be stepping out of the line. So even there's where we have a person that is of the left agreeing that this is where Brian Sims goes too far and is out of line. So keep in mind that your laws also are against you at this point, Mr. Sims. Let's continue.
And so my hope is that you'll donate $100 for every extra hour that this woman is out here telling people what's right for their bodies. So I have a couple questions for you, ma'am. How many children have you...
Well, you could have done that without just going around and harassing her, but okay.
Clothed today? I'm sorry, I missed your answer. How many children have you clothed today? How about how many children have you put shoes on their feet today? Have you fed any children today, or have you just stood out in front of a Planned Parenthood shaming people for something that they have a constitutional right to do?
So notice, I love how everyone that is pro-choice tries to use this argument against people, because that question can be turned around onto them. Have you done that? Because when you're trying to then say that and try to put them down like that, have you done that? How many people have you fed? How many people have you clothed? How many kids have you fed, clothed? Have you adopted a bunch of the kids that are, missing opportunities in foster homes or adoption centers and all that kind of stuff? Have you managed to take care of certain kids? Kids that need family? Or have you fed these kids, clothed these kids that are, either like homeless on the streets or struggling with certain situations? Because I'm sure that happens in the state of Pennsylvania. In fact, I'm sure that happens in all states, especially no different than where I live or where anyone else lives. There's always usually a form of poverty and struggling that goes on with every family and especially with every kid. So, Brian Sims, the question goes to you. How many have you taken care of? I'm not talking in terms of politics, because you can say that all you want. Have you seen face to face this money being used for this and actually seen that these people get this? Are there any homeless people in the streets? Have you tried to engage with this? I do wonder if he would actually respond to me concerning this. Anyways, let's see what we got going on here.
Huh? If you're here about the children, you can pray at home for children. It's probably the same place that you could feed a child.
Uh-huh. Just like at your home, you could probably do the same thing. So what's the point there when using that argument? It's just ridiculous.
But you're not. Instead, you're out here shaming people for something that they have a constitutional right to do.
They have a constitutional right to do something, just like it's a constitutional right to also express freedom. Your freedom of speech or your freedom of practice of religion. But somehow, Brian Sims, being the hypocrite who contradicts himself, has a problem with someone practicing a constitutional right. Interesting. One constitutional right is preferred over the other.
Who would have thought that an old...
By the way, I'm noticing, I noticed Saint Dragon's comment there. Pro-life boys, amen. Pro-life boys all the way.
...right to do. Who would have thought that an old white lady would be out in front of a Planned Parenthood?
Old white lady. What does white have to do anything? Why? Why does that matter? Alright, continue.
Telling people what's right for their bodies. Shame on you. Shame on you for hiding your face at the same time that you're shaming other people.
Okay. Woman probably just doesn't want her face shown. Okay? Now, granted, you are legally granted to do such a thing. The issue is of trying to be a decent person in this regard. Something common sense should tell you.
Again, the same laws that protect me protect you, and that's okay. You're allowed to be out here. That doesn't mean that you have a moral right to be out here.
Alright, so moral right to be out here. What exactly is she doing that's wrong? Because as far as what we have on the report, it's just simply praying. But if she was like just practicing something about telling people about that it's wrong to kill an unborn human being, to kill another human being, to kill another member of the Homo sapien race, to kill a unborn living individual that is either white, black, brown, or any other color, that is like something that is wrong to kill something that is alive? Alright, I mean, I don't see what's wrong with expressing the truth of what modern science is said and identifies that this is indeed something that is a living being. Unless there are some lives that don't matter, and there are some black lives that don't matter because there are black fetuses that are also in the womb.
Shame on you. What you're doing here is disgusting. This is wrong. You have no business being out here. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. Yep. Disgusting. So do me a favor, please. If you're watching this, Planned Parenthood of Southeastern Pennsylvania is one of the most heavily protested Planned Parenthoods in the country, and they deserve your support.
Yeah, heavily protested, meaning people practicing freedom of speech, and also people that are, these people, this Planned Parenthood, is to expect that, just like a good bit of other organizations. Like there are some churches that could get protested by certain things based off of what a certain church might be teaching or anything. There was a church I saw from Jeff Durbin's church. He got protested by a certain individual, and they were fine. They didn't call the cops or anything like that. They in fact engaged with the person. So to me, I don't think there would be anything too problematic about that. So yeah, he's just going to talk about, donate to the Planned Parenthood and all that kind of stuff. Something you could have done and made this comment about from your own home or from your own office, but again, not being someone who does not practice what he preaches, you decide not to do that.
These are the kind of attacks that we can expect on Planned Parenthoods in the current administration. Shame on you, man, for standing out here thinking you know what's right for other people's bodies.
Well, if that's the case, then couldn't that same thing be made towards the woman that goes in and says, I know what's right for this fetus's body? Extermination. I mean, are you gonna suggest that something's... Again, this is where he is full of contradictions and being a hypocrite. Is that when he says, okay, no, you do not get to have the right to have some control over the body. Well, number one, that's not what's being done here. But number two, even if that was the case, then what about where the fetus that cannot make a decision for itself, instead someone makes a decision for the non-consenting fetus and says, okay, exterminate this fetus because I have the right to do with the fetus what I want with it. Something wrong there. Wildheart666 in the live chat says, I'm pro-women, so am I. Not having to carry a baby they don't want for 9 months with incredible risks and pain along the way. Okay, so they don't want to wait for 9 months with incredible risks and pain along the way. So the solution is to kill a member of the human species. So in other words, the only way to solve the problem with these incredible risks and pain along the way is to kill another human being, and that is what the fetus is. Interesting form of logic. Alright, continuing onwards.
There are women that come here from counties away, miles away, because people like you are standing out in front of their Planned Parenthood, shaming them. You must have something to say. You've had something to say to every single woman that's come in here, every single couple that's come in here.
Alright, so apparently so, based, because I don't know if what he's saying is true or not, but even let's grant it. So other people, so she's said some things to some people, okay? And there's times she has the right to not talk to people, okay? So there's the thing. She has her own way of doing things, and she has her own thing. Now, personally, I think she should have addressed and talked to the state representative, especially address the behavior and conduct of a elected official or political official of this state. So it's just crazy how he's gonna pretty much act like, in my honest opinion, a liberal pro-choice G-man. So Brian Sims to me is nothing more than a G-man in The Office. That's pretty much how I see it. Wildheart666 says, basically, yes, so he does admit it's about killing another member of the human race. The only solution is kill another member of the human race if the person does not want to deal with the incredible risks and pain along the way. The other solution, adoption. If you don't want the child, there is adoption. To give it up for adoption. The other one, and this is not saying for all situations because we know there are certain instances where that's not necessarily possible. Condoms for preventing such act, for preventing getting pregnant. So there's a second solution. But in the case that's not the case, this is a non-consensual thing that as a result happened, again, still we have adoption. So we have at least two other solutions besides abortion. And if you're going to be saying, oh wait, there's still risks and there is still pain that is along the way. Okay, so there is pain and there is risks along the way. Realize that concerning number one, the risks mostly apply to people who have certain conditions that affect it when they, have to give birth to a child. So at that point, if it's like life or death situation, that is then up to them, because either way, then we're dealing with one life and then another life in that regard. Wildheart666 says, adoption still involves carrying the baby for 9 months. Yeah. Yep, it does. Carrying the life of another human being of the Homo sapien race. That apparently we have the right to say that this living being, this this member of the human race that is living and being, has no purpose. No, you're not derailing me. In fact, you're just helping prove the point as to the whole logic about what people like Brian Sims is addressing and is part of. So anyways, continuing onward with what Brian Sims has to say.
You've had something to say, something to hand them. And yet now that you're on camera, you have nothing to say and nothing to do about this? Shame on you. There's not a person coming here that needs your advice on what to do with their bodies. Not one. An old white lady telling people what's right to do with their bodies. Shame on you. Shame. Shame. Shame on you. There's no faith that tells you you are right and everybody else is wrong.
Right, there is none that say that one individual person is right concerning a human being and that everyone else is wrong. But there is objective truth, of which is one thing Christianity teaches, and of which Christianity within the Bible teaches that the taking of another person's life with intent, and especially that life is in the blood, is murder, according to the Bible. In fact, that's the thing. While legally, it's not considered murder by any of the stretch of the means in a technical, legal, or medical definition of the term, the Bible most certainly would say that this is murder. And in fact, usually if someone that is pregnant, if the woman is caused to have a miscarriage during the middle of a fight, usually the man is then charged with the death penalty due to this principle of the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, life for a life concept. So the value of the fetus is considered when it comes to the biblical principles there. So continuing onwards.
There's no faith that tells you it's your job to stand out here and shame people for something that they have a right to do. This is disgusting. This is wrong. This is shameful. So please, if you're watching this, even if it's just $5 that you can give to Planned Parenthood of Southeastern Pennsylvania, this is the kind of stuff that they have to deal with. Cowards that won't show their face when others are looking, but they will shame every single woman, every single person of color, every single family that walks in here looking for help, looking for guidance.
Kind of makes you wonder, what was that was said?
That won't show their face. Because if you're watching this, even if it's just $5 that you can give to Planned Parenthood of Southeastern Pennsylvania, this is the kind of stuff that they have to deal with.
Now listen carefully what he's about to say.
Cowards that won't show their face when others are looking.
Cowards that won't show their face when others are looking. I wonder what he has to say to Antifa. The people that wear masks and remain anonymous for the most part. Because that's the whole thing. Wonder if he's like saying that Antifa is just a bunch of cowards. Because when no one's looking, or when people start looking, that's when the masks show up.
But they will shame every single woman, every single person of color, every single family that walks in here looking for help, looking for guidance.
Yeah, and they can provide help and guidance. Hence why people such as Apologia Studios, the babies, and they have done so with saving tons of children from the abortion clinics. So yeah.
I'm so sorry, guys. Thank you so much for working in a place that respects and protects women. Thank you so much.
Wait a minute. Respects and protects women? But what about the unborn females in the womb? So by the time they're adults, that's good. But if they're still in the womb, if they're still, little, then no, don't respect y'all. And notice this thing too. There's a guy that's giving up like the little heavy metal sign and whatnot, blah blah. But the guy's white. Why is this significant? You'll hear in a second. Because remember, he kept complaining about old white ladies. Here comes, well, I assume from the distance at least, appears as an old white man. Why is he getting respect?
Much. Please give $5 to Planned Parenthood on behalf of this woman. If you're a white person like I am, we have a lot of catching up to do. We have a lot to apologize for, and I'm going to apologize. I'm going to start by apologizing for this.
Apologizing for what? Wait, hold up, because here's what's ridiculous.
If you're a white person like I am, we have a lot of catching up to do. We have a lot to apologize for, and I'm going to apologize.
To who? Why is this a race thing? Why is this a race thing?
I'm going to start by apologizing for this woman. Shame on you. What you're doing here is disgusting. It's an attack on common sense. It's an attack on the Constitution. It's an
attack on the Constitution when this woman is acting upon her constitutional rights. Way to school yourself here, Brian Sims.
Attack on the rights of every single person coming here, and don't convince yourself that what you're doing isn't extremely racist. How dare...
Run that by me again?
It's an attack on common sense. It's an attack on the Constitution. It's an attack on the rights of every single person coming here. And don't convince yourself that what you're doing isn't extremely racist.
How... Oh my goodness, I think I just got a bit of a headache here. How in the world is any of this racist? How? Okay. Okay, first of all, you know what? No, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until he's done with a bit. Because I have something that will easily show how at this point Brian Sims is a supporter of racism. But until then, let's continue.
An attack on the Constitution. It's an attack on the rights of... Now you've got your back to everybody. Is that how it is? Now you've got your back to everybody.
He just keeps like going up to her with the camera, which again just shows he's going to continue with harassment, which is something that he could be charged with even as a state representative. Wildheart666 says, the basic point is that you can't force someone to support something that is dependent on their body to live. Would you force a mother to donate an organ to a 2-year-old child? No. And we are not forcing someone to support something concerning this whole thing. They are certainly able to have a choice in the matter. We are, however, trying to convince them to make the choice of something. So there are different choices. Again, pro-choice. You can choose to have the abortion or not. That's usually what the principle is concerning pro-choice advocates, is that you have a choice. And so there are ways that we can then convince people to make one decision over the other decision. Not forcing them, because forcing at that point is getting a gun or a knife and say, make the decision. Or making threats to people. But instead, we are trying to reason with people based off of what we see in modern science, what is made based on what can be found in the womb concerning the fetus. And that is why even some people who used to be part of Planned Parenthood have left once they have discovered the truth about what is actually going on concerning the fetus from science, from biology, from embryology, as well as seeing what happens when the people do an abortion. So would I force a mother to donate an organ to a 2-year-old child? No. But if I could make a convincing case as to why the mother should, then I leave it still up to the mother to make the decision. So why should a fetus get special rights over a 2-year-old child, asks Wildheart. I don't see where the issue is of special rights concerning one over the other, because as far as I'm aware, all should get the same kind of rights to the sanctity of life. That's just how I am when it comes to that. So, continuing.
Shame on you. Shame on you. Actually, you're doing the right thing. Let's keep walking down the block. We can talk about this. We can talk about your Christian faith, about how your Christian faith believes in shaming people, about how your Christian faith believes in telling people that you know what's right for their bodies, about how your Christian faith tells you that you know what's right for their families. Shame on you.
Now, y'all don't know what just happened there a bit, but he put the camera, like, it almost looked like he was, like, about to just shove it down her mouth, almost, kind of looking. Like, it was just about skin contact with the camera. This is ridiculous. This is immaturity at its finest. And this guy got elected to be state representative. Wildheart, by the way, here's this interesting. Wildheart666 says, I don't have a problem if you are just making an argument and still letting the woman choose, to be honest. Yeah, we allow her to choose one choice over the other. And so if she wants to make one decision, well, we tried making our case if she chooses abortion. But if she then chooses, you know what, I've heard what you've said, and the arguments have convinced me. I should not get this abortion because it would be killing an innocent human being who did nothing to deserve the death penalty via abortion. So, that's what we've mostly been arguing and advocating for nowadays, compared to some people who just go out and scream. Instead, we try to, teach what is true about what is actually happening, especially based off of embryology, biology, and then we make the case when trying to talk to some people and make arguments. We're not trying to force people.
You know what's right for their families. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Camera out of my face.
No. The same rights that allow you to be out here allow me to be out here.
Yeah, but there's a difference between harassing someone and trying to have a reasonable conversation, Especially if this is someone that wants one. Apparently the person doesn't want one, and you just keep persisting to the point that you have to then get up in her face and then shove a camera on her face. Not like get it up close, but like almost like smack it at her face. Again, this is textbook definition of harassment, and I hope at this point that actions would be taken against you for it, Mr. Sims. Let's continue.
Shame on you. You have a problem protesting in public? Don't protest in public. If you know who this woman is, and if you can give me her address, we'll protest out in front of her home.
Whoa! Okay. What in the world? Targeted harassment, maybe? Get her address, and then get people to protest outside her home. Where she has, with that part, she has private property at that point. And you don't know, by the way, because some places don't have it, if her home is public property or private property at that point. And you're going to say, let's protest outside this place because someone's feelings got hurt? This is ridiculous. And again, this is someone that has been elected as an official for Pennsylvania. In fact, let me see here. Harassment and findlaw.com or criminal.findlaw.com. Let's see here. Criminal harassment should not be confused with how harassment. Okay, so let me go to where it said here. Generally, criminal harassment entails intentionally targeting someone else with behavior that is meant to alarm, annoy, torment, or terrorize them. Not all petty annoyances constitute harassment. Instead, most state laws require that the behavior cause a credible threat to the person's safety or their family's safety. And considering, who knows, maybe this woman might have a family. Could be what we're seeing here. And especially since it's saying, let's target this at the person's house. All right, let's see here.
Let's go protest out in front of her house and tell her what's right for her body. Please call the cops. Tell them Representative Brian Sims is standing in his district telling somebody that using the rights that they're using to protest women coming into Planned Parenthood is disgusting and it's wrong and it's shameful.
Oh, don't forget to tell him about how Representative Brian Sims is harassing a innocent civilian practicing her legal rights to protest. Don't forget that part. Or unless Brian Sims is like trying to, at this point, kind of cover and hide that up. I don't know.
You have no business being out here, and the rights that you have allow you to be out here are very different than the moral standing that you think you have. There's nothing Christian about what you're doing. There's nothing loving. There's nothing kind.
I thought you said earlier that was it. That her Christian faith was teaching people to be shamed. So now it's not? Interesting. Again, Brian Sims, the man full of contradictions.
This is a racist act of judgment, and you have...
Racist act of judgment? Why and where? I don't see how. Because at this point I could see you would be in charge of racism. Because for the African American woman that goes in there with a African American fetus and a white doctor, like one of the white people that we saw walk in that works at the clinic, what if the white guy performs the abortion and executes and kills the life of an innocent African American fetus that did nothing wrong? You know, kind of similar to how the African Americans that get shot down by police for them not doing anything wrong. Kind of a similar situation, except this one happens inside the womb, and instead of a gun, is performed with a set of material that tears apart the fetus and just like rips it apart. So a much more brutal, gruesome death to a very younger member of the African American race, of the human being race. So at this point, there is still racism being committed here, and it is done in a support by Brian Sims at a Planned Parenthood in terms of a killing of this one life. But then again, maybe not racism, because then all lives don't necessarily matter in that regard to the fact that they're young and not yet born. Still a living thing, but because it's not yet born, we have the right to still kill it. Alright, continuing.
Have no business being out here shaming people for doing something they have a right to do. An old white lady telling people what's right for their bodies. Who would have thought?
Yeah, what's right for not the lady's body, but the body of the fetus who is going to get killed if abortion is something that is promoted. So, if you don't like people telling you what to do with your body, but yet, it's okay to tell another thing what's right for their body. That is execution. That is abortion against that body of the fetus.
Please call the cops. Call the cops. It's okay with me. It's okay with me. Not only do I know the cops around here, I know that the cops around here are trained in my constitutional rights.
Including the parts where it's against the law to harass people, as well as to say that you plan on targeting harassment with people. Interesting.
Now you hide your head in shame. You shame every single person that's coming here. You have things to say to every single person coming to Planned Parenthood, but you hide your head in shame when all of a sudden you have to do it in public. This is disgusting. Planned Parenthood of Southeastern Pennsylvania, please go on their website. There's the Planned Parenthood Action Fund. This Planned Parenthood has done more for civil rights in America than this person will ever do for anyone's rights. They deserve our support. They deserve your financial support. And if you walk by here, like I do every single day, please say something to these protesters. They bank on us being quiet. They bank on us caring more about decorum than we do about righteous indignation. So please don't let them get away with this. They're shaming people every single day for something that they are allowed to do. Every day I watch girls drive here from miles away because they can't go to a Planned Parenthood in their own home because protesters are outside shaming them for something they have a right to do. Don't let them get away with it. We're stronger than this. We're all better than this.
Yeah, we're better than this. We're just gonna, allow these little babies, these unborn fetuses, these unborn children to just get slaughtered and promote a preborn Holocaust at the expense of, personal feelings, I guess.
Tell the right that we're right and that they are wrong. Shame on you for being out here telling women what's right for their bodies. Shame on you for telling anyone what's right for their bodies.
And you stand up for those little kids and get raped by those priests that you go to.
Hasn't...
Oh, you hear that comment there? Because that one guy, the white guy that was mentioned, he made a comment. Let's hear that again.
And you stand up for those little kids and get raped by those priests that you go to.
Well, how do you know this woman isn't? I mean, I most certainly do. And not just concerning the Catholics, but even the issue going on in the Baptist Church and various other problems. So, way to make yourself look a bit foolish there. And pretty much as usual, Brian Sims is going to hop on that one.
Hasn't fed a child today, hasn't put shoes on a child today, right?
Have you put any shoes on a child today? Have you fed a child today, my friend?
Right. I'm sorry, ma'am. How many Catholic churches are you protesting out of? 400 priests in Pennsylvania indicted for child molestation. I don't remember seeing you in any of those protests. I was at them. I don't remember seeing you at any of them. Instead, you're dragging people for their constitutional rights. Shame on you. Shame on you. The amount of mental gymnastics it must take to think that you have a right to tell a woman what's right for her body, and yet you will support a faith that has protested, that has molested children across the planet. Shame.
Again, don't know if the person is Catholic or not. And that would be a weird assumption. Because for me, I would definitely say that's not Christianity. Catholicism, or the issue of the priests molesting the children, that's not Christianity. I would definitely protest that. And those that even are in the Christian faith, or people, or the Christian church for that matter, that are caught in the molestation charges, like I said, in the Baptist church and in various other churches, would still protest that. And would still speak out against that. But of course, Brian Sims likes to put his foot in his mouth before he gets into this.
Shame on you. This is what broken morality looks like. This is what broken values look like. This is
Oh, you're talking about yourself? Okay. Well, there you go.
how they show up in front of our Planned Parenthoods. This is what they're doing. If you can't tell, this is a place that deserves your support. Planned Parenthood of Southeastern Pennsylvania. They have to deal with people like this every single day. They deal with people out here every single day telling others what's right for their bodies. But we're not going to let them get away with it. Absolutely not. No, ma'am. Don't hide. Don't hide. You're publicly protesting women coming to a Planned Parenthood. It's something they have a right to do. Don't hide from it. Don't hide from it. Have the courage of your broken convictions if this is what you're going to do. Everyone, this is what they deserve and this is what they need. Every single time any of us walk by something like this, we're letting them win. We're letting them think that they are right, and we know better. These people have no business telling anybody else what's right for their body. They have no business telling people of color what they think about what they do with their families, with their...
Yet it's okay to tell or to basically not even ask a black fetus concerning the white doctor that has to then examine it and kill it. That's not okay to ask or even consider what the unborn child would even care about. Because basically the unborn black child has no value, according to Brian Sims. That's racism right there, my friends.
Their own family planning. This is disgusting. This isn't Christianity. This is...
You like Mitt Romney, my friend. You flip-flop all the time. You like pancakes, apparently. You flip-flop. This is Christianity. Oh, this is not Christianity. Now this is Christianity. Buddy.
This isn't love. This isn't support. This isn't kindness.
Alright, so at that point... Oh, he just switched back.
This is the hiding, shameful face of those that judge at Planned Parenthood. And it's disgusting.
Alright, so he's done with his rant there. So, eventually found out that, of course, the streaming site that he uses for, especially considering Twitter, a Periscope company that uses this, falls under the classification of abusive behavior, which says, quote, if you believe this broadcast harasses, intimidates, or uses fear to silence another person's voice, please click below. So apparently some people have definitely reported the broadcast, and that's why we're definitely putting this on so that we can have some clarification or something there. So going upwards, we're going to show something interesting, is that this is the first time he's done this. Let me see here. Actually, we got some comments. This is my issue with this is from Soma. This is my issue with the argument. What would you do if the child did give consent to it, hypothetically speaking? Then you'd have to say abortion would be okay. I doubt consent is why you view it as wrong. Correct, because there would be more to it concerning that, just like in the same issue about assisted suicide. The issue is still about killing an individual who didn't do anything to deserve the death. The issue about the consent, and why I use that argument, is because of the argument that is being used by certain people when they say, okay, it's about the consent of the women, and that's what matters, and not rights. So, at that point, that's when we must ask ourselves, okay, if it's about consent, we must use consistent logic concerning the realities of what is happening in this world right now. So that's why I use that. Alright. But anyways, as I was saying, apparently there's an earlier thing that happened before this where he tries to offer money, $100 to anybody who will dox 3 young girls who were peacefully protesting. And again, this shows how twisted the mind of a Pennsylvania representative is. So we're going to play that clip for y'all right about now. So let me just get to it.
Hi everyone, Representative Brian Sims here, and I am outside the Planned Parenthood at southeastern Pennsylvania. Oh, no, they're leaving now. What we've got here is a bunch of protesters. A bunch of pseudo-Christian protesters who've been out here shaming young girls for being here. And so here's the deal. I've got $100 to anybody who will identify any of these 3.
And he says this right in front of them too. So he's like, this point trying to say that he's like trying to get people out to identify these girls. And does so on a forum that is public. And so people are going to take this. They're going to take us to the doc-dropping websites. And so that the information is out there and people are then going to do what they do best. Harass people. So in other words, promoting criminal harassment. Brought to you by Brian Sims of Pennsylvania.
These 3.
So we're
I'm going to
actually
donate to Planned Parenthood. I'm going to donate to Planned Parenthood. So look, a bunch of white people standing out in front of a...
So notice that they're at least engaging and confronting, but Brian Sims doesn't want to engage in reasoning. Brian Sims doesn't want to engage in dialogue. Brian Sims does not want to engage in rationality or discourse. He wants to engage in a monologue of living in your own bubble in an echo chamber. That's what we're seeing here.
Planned Parenthood, shaming people. There's nothing Christian about what you're doing. Nothing Christian at all about what you're doing.
Oh, and it's interesting. Like, apparently, what was it? Did a white comment get made, actually?
Planned Parenthood, shaming people. There's nothing Christian about what you're doing. Nothing Christian at all about what you're doing. Nothing Christian or loving or godly.
So yeah, something, because that's the thing, can't use the white comment on him. Because there's one woman who looks, I'm going to assume, if anything, Indian or something like that from the thing. Like, I can't tell from the imaging, but it's basically, yeah, definitely, because the other 2 are white, and especially the one I assume is a mom or something like that. They're definitely white in comparison to this one person.
You're doing. So, nothing Christian at all about what you're doing. Nothing Christian or loving or godly about what you're doing. So I've got $100 to anybody who will identify who this. $100. See if you got some friends out here. $100. It'd be easier if you just give me your name and your address.
Give your name and address so that way we can just go ahead and send people to your house to harass you. I'm Brian Sims. I promote harassment because I enjoy harassing people. I enjoy in promoting criminal activity because that is apparently the most loving thing to do. Sorry, folks, but a criminal is a criminal, and things like this just irritate me when that happens. This is pretty much kind of like a Pennsylvanian Donald Trump if he was to be a state representative. Yeah, you heard me. I called Brian Sims Donald Trump. Deal with it.
Rich,
Come on.
Rich Boheinski.
Rich, where you from?
Lansdowne.
Rich, what makes you think that it's your job to tell women what's right for their bodies? And the truth is, I'm not really asking because I don't care. Shame on you.
Then why ask it? You... Again, this is someone who hates reason, someone who hates the facts, and someone who doesn't want to engage in discourse.
Guys, Planned Parenthood here faces attacks daily from people like this, from pseudo-Christians saying that they are here to somehow protect their own version of Christianity.
No, it's to protect the lives of the unborn children. So, you have no idea what you're talking about.
So do me a favor. If you've watched this, please consider giving $100 to Planned Parenthood. I'm going to do the same.
So there you go, with the issue of $100 to Planned Parenthood to support the funding of parts of a good bit of that going to abortion services at that point. So yeah, quite the game from our boy. Ain't that something? So let's see, where are we at now on our broadcast in terms of the hours? Because that was definitely a while. But yeah, folks, please don't be afraid to engage in this type of stuff and look into the facts, because in fact that's what we're about to do. Let's take a look right here. We're going to look into these different texts. And let's see here. Oh, hold up. So I've got a watch now, and it's kind of different now. Trying to move things around. There's like that little strap. It's the first time I'm actually wearing a watch. So there we go. Let's see. So here we go. These are scientific textbooks and medical books that state something. Life begins at fertilization. Development of the embryo begins at stage 1 when a sperm fertilizes an oocyte. Might be butchering that. And together they form a zygote. From Marjorie, England, A Life Before Birth. This is the second edition. I'm pretty sure I'll say the same thing in the updated ones they would have. But that one's from 1996, page 31. Now let's see here. In Cloning Human Beings, Report and Recommendations of the National Bioethics Advisory Commission, published in 1997, and this was from the appendix, the second appendix. The embryo, the developing organism from the time of fertilization until significant differentiation has occurred, when the organism becomes known as a fetus. Then the HarperCollins Illustrated Medical Dictionary by New York, Harper Perennial, in 1993 says, embryo, defined embryo meaning an organism in the earliest stage of development, and a man from the time of conception to the end of the second month in the uterus. Now it's key to keep in mind that the other term is organism, because it's an early stage of development. And because of that, then it is... Oh, wait, where was it? Oh, yeah, right here. So, early stage of development, and from the time of conception to the end of the second month in the uterus. So that's the stages of what we know as the mechanism of this being known as an embryo. And according to this, organism is a complex structure of interdependent and subordinate elements whose relations and properties are largely determined by their function in the whole, and an individual constituted to carry on the activities of life by means of parts or organs more or less separated in function but mutually dependent, a living being. And so far, based on these two definitions here. Number two is what is being referred to, especially considering the context of the definition that is applied here from Merriam-Webster, is a multicellular organism. So right there, we have an organism, a living being, and according to the HarperCollins Illustrated Medical Dictionary, which I have seen other things from HarperCollins. So HarperCollins is a very academic thing to have in terms of the people they have on there. Also, I see Alexander had just found the channel and subscribed. Well, congrats, Alexander. I'm curious what he thinks Christians addressing the issue of abortion should look like, though. Yeah, it's should look like, in my opinion, what I see the Apologia Church, Jeff Durbin, does. I mean, I think that would be the better approach, because they've actually, from my experience, I've seen more progress and lives being saved in the ways that they've done it compared to people that just go out and screaming at people, compared to how some people have done it. Because these people don't really scream at people, and they'll reason and talk with people. So that's how I would go with it. Alright, so we've gone off that. Alright. William Walters and Peter Singer in, what is this? Test Tube Babies from Melbourne, Oxford University Press, 1982. Embryo, the early developing fertilized egg that is growing into another individual of the species. In man, the term embryo is usually restricted to the period of development from fertilization until the end of the 8th week pregnancy. Now, John Langman in Medical Embryology, 3rd edition, in 1975, the development of a human being begins with fertilization, a process by which two highly specialized cells, the spermatozoon from the male and the oocyte from the female, unite to give rise to a new organism, the zygote. So the zygote is an organism, which means it is a living being. This zygote is. Now I did quote something from 1975, so we're gonna try to keep a little bit within the 90s to a little bit now. Now this one comes from Dr. John Epeg, senior staff scientist, Jackson Laboratory, and member of the NH Human Embryo Research Panel, at a panel transcript said, I would say that among most scientists, the word embryo includes the time from after fertilization. 1995, T.W. Sadler, Langman's Medical Embryology, 7th edition. The development of a human begins with fertilization, a process by which spermatozoon from the male and the oocyte from the female unite to give rise to a new organism, the zygote. So this same thing that was mentioned from 1975 from Langman is then kept focus on from T.W. Sadler with, the 7th edition of Langman's Medical Embryology. Then Jonathan von Blurkum of the University of Colorado states in the panel transcript here for the NH Human Embryo Research Panel, the question came up of what is an embryo? When does an embryo exist? When does it occur? I think, as you know, that in development, life is a continuum. But it goes on to say, but I think one of the useful definitions that has come out, especially from Germany, has been the stage at which these two nuclei from sperm and egg come together and the membranes between the two break down. Alright, so let's see here. We're going to just go for one more. 1997 from William J. Larson in Human Embryology, 2nd edition. The chromosomes of the oocyte and sperm are, respectively, enclosed within female and male pronuclei. These pronuclei fuse with each other to produce the single diploid 2N nucleus of the fertilized zygote. This moment of zygote formation may be taken as the beginning or zero time point of embryonic development. Whoops, that, by the way, was my battery going into telling me, battery's about to die, so you better do something. Alright, so yeah. Those are some scientific textbooks, and then quotes from scientists at a panel on human embryo research. And then a couple of them in some articles for something, especially in terms of like an appendix section. But yeah, ultimately they agree on the same thing, that the starting point of human life is to come in existence with the formation of the one-celled zygote. So, that being in mind, consider this, that when it comes to this issue of abortion, no one is trying to do this out of hatred or racism like this one very unprofessional person tried to indicate and do. But rather, this issue is something about people who have to be, preserved, the human race, and where we're showing caring and kindness to try to help them live out life. So, ultimately, my whole takeaway from this, Brian Sims acting way too unprofessional, and that this issue is much bigger than some empty, vague, and non-true claim that this is racism. This is a matter about humanity. It's a matter about loving humans, and to not be a hypocrite about these things. And that's what I've seen from Brian Sims. Anyways, this has been RC Apologist. Hope y'all take care. I'm clocking in or clocking out for the night, so y'all take care and enjoy. God bless.